welcome back to the Card Pool. I'm your host, Stu.
And I'm Kyle.
And today we are looking into the hidden gems that we will find in Time Spiral.
Yes, indeed. And this is part one of a multi-part series looking at Time Spiral. We're going to look at some hidden gems, and then later on we'll look at some money cards too. But first off, we're going to start from 10 down to 6 today on our list of hidden gems.
And just a quick disclaimer, these are all cards that aren't found in the 10 most expensive in this set. These are the only ones that we are allowed to pick from. So with that knowledge going forward, we're going to dive into number 10. And at number 10, I'll start off, Kyle, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have an enchantment called Detainment spell. Now this is a 1-drop R enchantment. It goes onto a creature, and it costs 1 planes to do this. The enchanted creature can't use activated abilities. And for 2 mana, 1 generic and a white, you can go ahead and move this R onto another targeted creature. This is a very unique kind of way to hose down powerful creatures. Typically with these kind of auras, we usually see them as one-shot effects, as in that the creature you play it on, it stays on there until the creature either leaves the field or the enchantment is destroyed. However, in this case, you can go ahead and play musical chairs.
Yeah, this is an interesting card. It's not quite as versatile as something like that makes the creature not able to attack or block.
True.
Like, it's not an arrest. However, the fact that you can move it between creatures is very interesting. And the fact that abilities can't be activated is, there are all kinds of creatures with a lot of awesome activated abilities. So the fact that you can move this between things at instant speed is very interesting. And for only 1 mana, I'm surprised that I didn't know that this card existed before now. This is really cool.
Hey, I will take that as a personal win. Because that means Kyle has not experienced this before, so I feel like I've won on multiple levels. But also, this has good political value in a game because you can go ahead and make it so that, all right, if there is a bigger threat that comes out, you can go ahead and take that out of the equation. Players might not exactly destroy this card, just for the fact that they know that you can go ahead and utilize it for them and stop something. Now, this doesn't stop triggered abilities. So like if somebody does go ahead and they attack like an R set, for example, and they get their effect off, this won't stop this even at instant speed. However, being able to go ahead and if somebody lies to you and say, yeah, I won't do this if you don't do this, and then they go ahead and do it, you're like, all right, well, you're asking for this now. I'm going to go ahead and respond to this and equip it to your creature.
You can have problems, though. If creatures have haste or if they've already been in play, they could just activate their ability in response to you trying to put this on their creature. However, you could then respond right back by putting this on anyway. And so it's kind of, it depends.
It will get around it. You can go ahead and just use the stack in a certain way, so this way you will always go on it, provided you have the mana for it.
It could work.
Just a card I just thought you don't really see played, especially so if Kyle hasn't seen it. So that's something to take note of.
Yeah, this is a new one. I like that. I like it a lot. Moving on, though, for my number 10 here, we're going to go to a card called Ignite Memories. This is definitely not one that I am a stranger to. I've used this one before.
Yes, you have.
So this is a 5-mana sorcery. Target player reveals a card at random from their hand, and Ignite Memories does damage to that player equal to that card's converted mana cost. And this also has Storm. So when you play it, you then copy it for every spell that was already played before it this turn for any player. So for me, this is a very underrated Storm card to me. We hear a lot about the Storm cards, like Grape Shot is one that gets used a lot competitively. Also, Tendrils of Agony is a good black one that drains people. And there's plenty of other good ones out there. This is one I feel like doesn't get the press that it deserves because this is actually a pretty reliable way to win the game if you're trying to win via Storm.
It is. It depends. I mean, there are scenarios where it depends on what's in the person's hand, and actually, there is an iconic moment where Kyle and I have actually had this card happen, and I had nothing but lands in my hand, and he just stormed off like crazy and did nothing.
That's the exception, though. I feel like most of the time, somebody, especially you got to be careful who you play it on. If somebody has only a few cards in their hand, odds are they have at least one high mana card in there. This could potentially kill somebody very easily.
But so again, typically with Storm decks, they are, I'd say, pretty much CEDH. If you want to make a really fine-tuned one, most CEDH cards are low-costed. So like for you to go ahead and do this, it would take even more oomph to do it because most of the CMC on those spells are usually under 3 if they can try to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, well, and something like Grape Shot, which guarantees you 1 damage for each copy, is more efficient than this, obviously.
Yeah.
But this could potentially win you the game for a lot less work than something like that would.
Sure, and in that regard, it can be much more advantageous for something like that. So it's definitely a card, I agree with you, it doesn't see as much play for Storm decks.
Yeah.
However, it is a card that is in a Storm deck kind of style. Izzet decks could totally use this.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And also, it is sorcery speed. You kind of almost want to see this at instant speed.
Yeah, it'd be nice, but that would probably be a little too good. Storm is just really good in general.
Yeah. I mean, for 5 mana, though, I would want this at instant speed.
Yeah. Well, moving on to number 9.
So my number 9 is a card that isn't as degenerate, but you could make it degenerate. So coming in at my number 9 is a card called Spike Tiller. Now, this is a creature that costs 5 mana, 3 generic, and double forest. For a spike creature, yes, that is a creature type, with a 0/0 body. However, when it comes into play, it will get 3 counters on it, 3 1/1 counters, that is. And it has 2 activated abilities, and that both cost 2 generic mana. The first one being remove a +1 counter from Spike Tiller and put a +1 counter on target creature. Secondly, remove a +1 counter from Spike Tiller and target land becomes a 2/2 creature that target land becomes a 2/2 creature that is still a land, but it also has a 1/1 counter on it. So this is good for 2 reasons. One of which is that this can go ahead and move counters around. Typically with counter-based decks, you have to go through a little bit more hoops to kind of go ahead and do that. Something that goes ahead and puts counters on itself to then put counters onto another creature isn't as simple as that.
Yeah.
But the real thing that gives this value is by making it so that lands become vulnerable. Being able to take out problem lands, usually that's its own instant or sorcery or a land itself that is like cannibalistic. It will take out another land for it, like a Ghost Quarter or a Strip Mine, for example. A creature that can go ahead and put that kind of threat on somebody's field is something to take note of.
Of course, it could also help you. I mean, if you're a certain deck that likes to animate your lands and doesn't really mind the potential of losing them, it works. Totally does.
Yeah.
There are plenty of land creature support out there now.
Oh, 100%.
So this totally works with that. And the +1/+1 counter theme goes along with something like, a Winding Constrictor or Hardened Scales, and you can make them bigger and bigger. But yeah, this is a very new spin on the spike creature type. And like you said, turning other opponents' lands into creatures to threaten them is usually how you would use this. It's pretty good, too.
Well, also, if you do have token doublings out there, this thing can actually go ahead and double itself. Because if you read the first effect, it is a target creature. It doesn't say another target creature. So you can go ahead and remove 1 counter from this to put it back on. And if you have something like Doubling Season, it will get 2. If you have something like Peer, you'll get 2. So it can go ahead and make it so, like, if you have enough mana, you can make this thing as arbitrarily large as you want.
Yeah, you can.
That could be a win con.
It could be, yeah. Interesting.
So moving on to your number 9, Cal.
All right, my number 9 here. Oh, am I going to press it or you? All right, there we go.
You got it.
All right. My number 9 is Void Mage Husher. Now, this is a human wizard, has 4 mana cost of 4, and then it has Flash, meaning you can play it anytime you could play an instant. It's a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, counter target activated ability.
Okay.
Then whenever you play a spell, you may return Void Mage Husher to its owner's hand. I think lots of people sleep on how great countering abilities rather than spells is, and this is a creature that can do it at any time via Flash, while also providing you a body to defend yourself and the potential to reload itself into your hand to do it all over again whenever you do anything, basically.
Yeah, most people assume activated abilities are on creatures, but actually they're not.
No, this is fetch lands. You can counter fetch lands with this. You can counter any number of things with this card, but make it super annoying to have to deal with.
And that's the thing that really gives it value. Also for the fact that it can self-return.
Yeah.
And which I could have said way smarter, it can return itself to your hand. And again, you are in blue, so playing an instant to go ahead and save this card isn't too hard to do. And being able to get that effect over and over again to hose down a problem permanent until you have a permanent answer to it. I said that actually right, I can't believe it. Or being able to go ahead and just recurse for later value is something that's really good. This is a wizard, there's tons of tribal stuff that go with this. It's also a human. Tons of other tribal stuff that works with this as well.
I love it, really. I think this is one of those like severely underrated cards.
It is pretty good, but I mean, again, I usually would like something that would counter a card itself. Because again, if you're counting the activate ability, you could have already countered the card for it. But then you get in the catch-22 for that. However, sometimes you don't have the mana for it. You have to make a more advantageous play. So this is a good thing to handle problems that slip through the cracks, actually. And it's a body, which you typically only see this as an instant effect.
Exactly. And aside from Vincer, this is probably one of the better ways you can use of just answering problems at instant speed.
Yeah, this would be more of a budget Vincer for that effect,
definitely.
actually.
But it is still, like I said, I think very much undervalued currently.
Yeah, I will give you that. So moving on to my number 8. Now, this is a creature called Greater Gargadon. Now, this is, again, a little bit to take in at first, so give me 1 second. So it is a creature that costs 10 mana, 9 generic, and a mountain for a beast that has a 9/7 body. Kind of big. However, it doesn't have to be as big. It has the suspend cost for 10. If you pay 1 red mana, this card will get suspended. We'll go into that in a second. However, actually, I'll go into that now. So the way how suspend works is this card gets exiled with so many counters on it. In this case, it would be 10. And once all these counters are taken off, the creature would come into play, and it would also have haste, if I'm correct.
Yes, yeah. At the beginning of every one of your upkeeps, you remove the counter from it. If it doesn't have any counters to be removed, comes into play, has haste. Yeah.
So also, if we go ahead, this has the extra effect, which is what makes this suspend thing not so bad. You can go ahead and sacrifice an artifact, a creature, or a land to remove a time counter from this card. And you can play this ability while it is suspended, obviously. That's what really makes this card shine and is so good. This is a sack outlet that can't really be messed with, if you think about it, right?
Yeah, it's true.
It's a lot harder because this is a triggered ability, which would have to be kind of removed at that point. And then the natural occurring one is an activated ability on your upkeep. So they have to have a variety of different types of counters for this. However, why do you want this card in your deck? It's a free sack outlet, so if you're going ahead and trying to get triggers with stuff, this could work in that kind of regard. If you're going ahead and pairing this with black. However, if they go ahead and board wipe, destroy your permanents, you can go ahead and sack them out to get this as a creature instead sooner onto the field. If they go ahead and board wipe, lose your creatures, save all but 1 counter on this guy, and then he will come out onto a clean field and pummel face.
It's true. A giant vanilla beat stick is not really usually the most exciting thing if you're playing Magic, but the fact that you can use this kind of just as a threat that's there, and it costs you 1 mana to use, like really.
Yeah.
So you can just put it, you could just remove it from play. People can't really mess with it at all, like you said. And then if you ever have a problem where something of yours is going to get removed, just sacrifice it to this card, and you're that much closer to having a 9/7 with haste come into play. It's a big problem that people are going to have to deal with. So it's very interesting.
I've seen this actually used in a Goblin deck, and the whole point is like for some reason as a form of safety, and it was very cleverly done because the player had a lot of anthems out there, which made the Goblins bigger than 1/1s, and he needed to draw cards, and Skull Clamp was the only option. However, they weren't dying due to the Skull Clamp being equipped, which is the iconic thing. So instead, he would go ahead, sacrifice the creature after it's been equipped, draw the cards, and get the effect via the Greater Gargadon.
Yeah, I've toyed with putting this into Winata as well because this works very well with Winata.
Oh yeah.
It's not a human, so it triggers her ability.
Right.
And it's one that you don't really mind having the deck because, like I said, 1 mana, you can just kind of get rid of it.
Yeah. You leave it off to the side, you wait, you almost forget it's there actually, but don't because you got to make sure you move those counters off of it. But yeah, it's clever in its creation because what home is this? Honestly, you couldn't really pinpoint it. It could be a variety of like a sleeper card for a whole bunch of different things, and this isn't an expensive card despite the mana cost.
Yeah, so it's very this is a very sneaky card. It doesn't look like it, but it is.
Actually, we'll do a quick little poll here. Let us know, is this a card actually that you would use in a deck or have used in a deck? Let us know in the poll or down in the comments below, and let us know what deck that actually is. But moving on to your number 8, Kyle.
All right, my number 8 here is going to be, going back to the white auras train, Temporal Isolation. Now this is, as I said, a 2 mana white aura, has flash once again, meaning it can be played at instant speed. And you enchant a creature and giving that creature Shadow, which means it can be blocked or be blocked. It can block or be blocked only by creatures with Shadow. And then you also prevent all damage that would be dealt by the enchanted creature. So I kind of like this card a lot for the same reasons that I like Darksteel Mutation. It's a similar sort of thing. It's not quite as good, but it's similar. it doesn't kill the creature or stop it from using abilities necessarily, but at instant speed, it does prevent it from doing anything meaningful in combat ever again.
Yeah.
Because you can't block it, but it can't hurt you, and it also can't block your stuff. So it basically doesn't exist, except for maybe abilities.
Unless you had something that had shadow. That would be the only case.
Yeah, like that's never going to happen. It's such a rare ability.
There's a few amount of creatures that actually have shadow on it, although provided slivers have the ability to get shadow, so I will say that. And there is one enchantment in black which can go ahead and give a creature shadow to the however, great point that you're saying like this. It pretty much makes it so like all the damage that it's dealing is nothing. So that Blightsteel they just went ahead, poured all this mana into, they're going to beat you with Infect? Not anymore, actually. Honestly, that Blightsteel kind of is just not doing anything anymore.
And I choose this over a pacifism or something similar, but especially in an enchantment-based deck, where you want answers that are maybe a little more on theme. This is basically an instant speed answer to anything that is also an enchantment. It's great.
Yeah, this would be good for Azura the Enchantress deck,
exactly.
because like go ahead, you do the attack, they have one creature out there, bring this out, equip it to that creature, enchant it to that creature, and then, well, now it can't block you.
Yeah.
It's clever in how it works. The fact that it has flash is the real thing that makes it work, and yeah, I like it. Is it better than my enchantment? Who's to say, actually?
Yeah, it depends.
Maybe the viewers. I'm actually surprised you wouldn't fight me on that one. But
no,
yeah, honestly,
it totally depends on the situation.
Yeah, I think it does. But moving on to my number 7, I don't know if you have anything else you have to...
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
But my number 7 here is a card called Ivory Giant. There we go, I got the right sound effect on that one. Now this is a creature, a giant creature, which is the type, with a 3/4 body that costs 7 mana, 5 generic, and double white. When Ivory Giant comes into play, tap all non-white creatures. And it has Suspend for 5, and you go ahead and you play 1 white mana for this one. So this creature is pretty good, pretty great for the fact that it can be sneaky, again, like we're saying with Greater Gargadon, for how it enters play. They have to be mindful that this thing is out of play. You can go ahead, have it enter, tap out the board except for your field, and swing in for stupid damage and hopefully win via this. This is a way to enable you to win the game. However, you don't also have to take the Suspend route for this. You could pay 7 mana, hard cast this creature, tap out all non-whites, and then still swing in for game.
Yeah, this isn't quite as sneaky as Greater Gargadon, which can automatically reduce its Suspend count at any time. This is like a lot of Suspend cards. You can see this coming for a while before it actually happens. Your opponents are going to have time to prepare for this, and I think that like 5 turns Suspend or 7 mana is just a little too long to have to wait for an ability like this.
Sure. But again, the whole thing is this is one of those big win more kind of cards, right? Now, typically with big win more cards, it's like, all right, this is an all or nothing scenario. I have to devote this whole turn to this. Well, this is a card you don't have to actually do that with. You can go ahead, play it out early. Sure, it's telegraphed. However, it doesn't mean that they can actually deal with it. The goal of your deck is to always bring out problems for your opponents to deal with. So if you keep doing that at a steady rate, sure, you might fall behind in some scenarios, but if you keep pushing the pressure onto them, eventually they're going to be like, well, that's coming out, but these are my 2 problems, and I can only deal with one of these scenarios.
Of course, it's color-based, though, so if you're ever playing against a deck that has white in it, you're going to have a really bad time.
Sure.
So, I don't know. This is an interesting card. It can turn some situations to your advantage, definitely, but I don't know. It's not great, but it's not terrible either.
It's not terrible. It's just something that, I've never rarely seen. It's just because it has the Suspend cost, it makes it better than it would typically be for like this 7 mana enormous card.
Suspend is a really good ability. It just is. And that's probably why they haven't brought it back. It's probably a little too good in a lot of cases.
Well, they will be bringing it back once we get the remastered set, which is part of the reason we are also doing this video.
Exactly. So, number 7, moving right along to another broken ability. Speaking of, my card is Crozen Grip. This is a green instant that costs 3 to play, and it has Split Second. So as long as this spell is on the stack, players can't play spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So, and it's simple text, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So why is this better than something like, I don't know, Beast Within, that could answer anything as compared to just artifacts or enchantments? Well, the answer is Split Second. Split Second is a busted, dumb, stupid ability that it will hopefully never exist again, but it's nice to have cards that have it.
Maybe. Honestly, I don't know. A commander with split second would be kind of interesting.
Oh, like just the fact that you can't respond. Split second basically means you can't respond to the card, and there is no way to stop it. Period. End of story.
You can't respond. However, there are triggered effects that could happen due to the creature or whatever happening.
They could, but yeah, odds are nothing is going to be able to happen in response to this card.
Sure, it's a lot harder.
This is one of the only cards in existence, might be the only one, that can effectively murder Sensei's Divining Tops. And that alone makes it worth playing.
Yes, and that's the whole selling point of this card. Now, people typically don't really use a card like Crozen Grip. It used to be seen a lot more in old school Magic, and has since kind of like faded away. Like, sure, you compare this to something like an Aura Shards, which one would you want more? Typically Aura Shards just for the recurability.
Oh, and obviously, like 99% of the time, I'd use Beast Within over this card because it answers anything as opposed to a very narrow subset of cards.
But this is one of the few where it's like, if it comes down to pure artifact and enchantment destruction, there is no comparison in this regard.
Yeah.
This is the card that makes it so they can't go ahead and sacrifice that Mind Stone to draw a card now.
Yeah.
They have to just lose it.
This is one of those cards that you're not usually expecting to see, and then when it comes out, you're just like, ugh, that's a thing.
And if you ever really want to know exactly how much power this card truly has, play against a Breya deck and cast this with Breya on the field with a whole bunch of artifacts. They are going to have a little twitch. I guarantee you, the eye is going to twitch, the mouth is going to twitch, or maybe the whole head will spin right around. I don't know. But legit, pretty much, it's going to make it so that they can't do what they want, and they were so set up for any response except for this.
I'm glad, like I said, I hope Split Second never comes back, but I am glad that there are a few cards out there where it's just like, I'm going to answer this problem, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's nice to have that around.
Yeah, they're not the most overpowered in that regard, but they do need to be monitored.
Yeah.
And I get what you're saying with that. But moving on to number 6, and this will be our final card for this video, my final card that is. So for my number 6 card, we're talking about Fool's Demise. Now this is a card which pretty much shows Kyle playing every game of Magic. It costs 5 mana for a 4 generic and a blue aura enchantment. Now it goes onto a creature, and whenever enchanted creature is put into a graveyard, return that creature into... I can't read. You read it, Kyle. Go for it.
Whenever the enchanted creature is put into the graveyard, you return it to play under your control. And then when Fool's Demise is put into a graveyard from play, you return it to its owner's hand.
So why do I like this card, besides the picture of Kyle? This right here is a great kind of recurability that we don't really see in blue. We see this kind of like reanimating effect in black and in white, but not in blue. And the way how this works is like, all right, if this aura goes to the grave, it comes back to your hand. If the creature goes to the grave, it comes back to the field. This pretty much doesn't leave the game until it's exiled. And for that kind of value, recurability in Commander is rare. This is something that does recur.
It's not quite as good as Gift of Immortality because you have to recast this card every single time, unlike the Gift. However, and I don't usually play these kinds of cards because the idea of reusable auras is not always great in practice, but on paper it sounds really good. And it can be. It can be like a Rancor or Aspect of Mongoose. There's a couple of them.
Well, I'm not saying this is like Rancor. Rancor is awesome.
Yeah. But something that's really interesting about this card is, notice it says, when the creature dies, return it to play under your control. Unlike equipments, which you can only equip to your own creatures, auras can go on anyone's creatures. So you put this on something you really like, you kill it, and then you get it. And you get this back for good measure.
And that was the next point I was going to go ahead and bring into this, actually. That it's a better mind control. Honestly, because like mind control is usually a 4-drop aura. For 1 more mana, you can go ahead and do this. Now it's whenever. The only thing I think that this really needs to be super, super awesome is Flash.
Yeah, that'd be great. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's as good as Mind Control because you have to go through the extra step of getting rid of the creature somehow.
Well, you don't have to. Somebody else could. Go ahead, play this, do some sort of kill spell or something like that.
I mean, it could happen, but usually you want to be in control of those kind of things. However, it is pretty cool that you can do that, and that's very interesting. Adds a lot of dimension to something like this.
Yeah, you sack out like a creature, go ahead, it comes right back. Something stupid happens. If you have to lose something due to whatever, or you want to just take something your opponent has, yeah, this is value.
And this is a remake of an old card, actually. There was an older blue enchantment called False Demise, which basically, when the creature that enchanted died, it comes back into play. It didn't return itself, though, which is kind of why this is more expensive, but a step up from that.
And this is just an uncommon. This isn't some sort of like just rare card. This was almost
uncommon.
should be a rare, but this is for an uncommon, I'd say pretty solid.
Yeah, very interesting card. I like it.
Thank you, Kyle.
Well, I'm going to stick on the blue train here for my final card of the video. And we're going to go to number 6 on my list, Mystical Teachings. Now, this is a instant, again, costs 4 mana to play. Search your library for an instant card or a card with flash and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. And it has flashback for 6 mana. Oddly enough, of a different color than the actual card itself, blue versus black. However, flashback, of course, means you can play the card from your graveyard for its flashback cost and then exile it. So you get additional mileage out of this card for every use. However, just looking at this card in general, I actually should mention that back when Time Spiral was a standard legal set, this card saw a lot of play, and for good reason. There were a lot of flash cards in that set, and just an instant tutor by itself is pretty great.
What do you think instantly counterspell?
Yeah, and putting those together in the 2 colors where you are most likely to have either of those things that you can use twice, wow. Like the value of this, how many things it can tutor instants, enchantments, creatures, you know, artifacts, maybe even that have flash.
Yeah.
There's only a few of them, but still, you can tutor almost like the way if your deck is set up correctly, you could tutor pretty much anything in your deck with this card. For 4 or 6 mana, that's pretty great.
See, the thing is, I just wish it was just mono blue. Oh, I do and I don't. It'd be more powerful if it was mono blue. The fact that they tacked on the other color onto the flashback kind of is what makes it less seen as a playable card in EDH. However, is it saying that this card isn't strong? No.
This is very strong.
And also, when you go ahead, so you think instants, all right, those are counter spells, kill spells, and then like anything else in between. If you need mana with a ritual or something else like that, sure. You need an answer like Cyclonic Rift, sure. However, we do see it also with creatures. Snapcaster Mage, who wouldn't want to tutor that?
Venser,
Venser would be
very
good. Mystic Snake, and we also see creatures today still getting flash on them. We see that Shark from Ikoria.
And the tribal rogues from Zendikar Rising now have a lot of new flash creatures.
Exactly. So it's not like instants are going to stop getting printed and flash is not going to happen anymore. Sure, we might not get a whole bunch of flash creatures at once, but we do get some sprinkled throughout, and every now and then we do get a bomb one, which would be loved to be tutored with this card.
Yes, and this is, like I said, I think this is one that I think a lot of people don't even know it exists, and yet it is fantastic.
I'd applaud you on this one, Kyle.
Thank you. I would hoped you would. I really like this
but
card.
I'm not. But that is going to conclude our part 1 for this set of Time Spiral. So we're going to have another video come out the following week, which is going to have our Hidden Gems 5 through 1, which are the tippy top that we have found.
In the meantime, you can look us up all over social media. We're on Reddit. We have a tapped out page where you can see all of our awesome decks. We have Facebook pages and Twitter pages, and we're all available at the handle The Card Pool.
And if you're looking for any of us on just podcasts to listen to, just Google up The Card Pool and you can find us on those as well.
Indeed. And we are also sponsored by TCG Player.
Yep, we have an affiliate link with TCG Player down below in the description. So what that does is right before you go ahead and you close out that shopping cart for an order to come to your house, click on the link below before doing that purchase, and it lets them know that, hey, you like us and that they should go ahead and help the channel out. It is a big help.
Always appreciated.
But until then, I'm Stu.
And I'm Kyle.
And we'll see you next time at the Card Pool.
Wow, we were complimenting each other a lot this video. That was very impressive.
I gotta stop doing that.
All right, whatever.
I'm used